having a healthy sense of self-worth go really hand in hand with purpose, and emotional intelligence is just all tied in with that. I think for me, emotional intelligence is understanding your reactions and responses. So your thoughts, your emotions, your actions, and your energy. And I think that's all tied in with understanding your purpose and who you are.
What up, peeps? Today we have Katrina Hahling from the Rebel Podcast. Thanks so much for taking your time to come chat with us today.
Thank you very much for inviting me. I always love having a good, deep discussion.
So, tell us a little bit about you and why you decided to start coaching specifically on purpose, self-worth, confidence, and emotional intelligence.
It was a long journey, I suppose. So I'll go back to the beginning. When I was a kid, I was in the 7th grade, and my school was turning 10, and they had decided they were going to do a time capsule, and every class was to insert something into the time capsule. It would be buried, and then it was opened up 10 years later at another like sort of fete that they did. We call it a fete here. I don't know, I don't actually know what it was, just a party, I guess, as for the school. And my particular class, our teacher decided that we were going to fill in a survey. So answer some questions, basically. Put your name at the top, answer these questions. And some of them were really easy, like what's your favorite lolly? What's your favorite food? Where would you like to travel? And I got really stumped by the question, what do you want to be when you grow up? Like I couldn't answer. I didn't know. And I really panicked about it. I was a straight A student. I always knew the answers. I knew, and I didn't know the answer to this. And I remember just this panic washed over me, and I ended up writing, I don't know, on that bit of paper. And it was a question that then began to plague me, especially as I don't know what it's like for you in America, but in Australia, when you get into high school, so 7th grade is the end of primary school for us, and the 8th grade is the start of high school. By the time you get into 9th grade, they expect you to choose subjects that will align with your future career path. Mm-hmm. And I just never knew what I wanted to do. And I was really overwhelmed and stressed out for most of my life, thinking, well, what do I want to do? And then I had a few other situations that came up for me that were, I guess, left me with the idea that I want to do something with my life that I love, that I'm passionate about. I want to have some kind of body of work. I want to really leave some kind of legacy or something behind me. But I couldn't figure out what it was. And it became such a big problem. I think I focused so much on the problem. So I traveled around the world. I've been paid for the most ridiculous things. I've tried heaps of stuff. I've thought about doing heaps of things. I swapped and changed my degree. Just trying these different things, trying to solve this puzzle of what do I want to be when I grow up? That was the ultimate question I was trying to solve. What I want to be when I grow up, that I'm passionate about and that I love. And I eventually ended up in Helsinki in Finland, which is where my mum's from. And I was really struggling at the time. So it was what I like to call my dark night of the soul. And I decided to stay there. I went there originally for a year, and I decided to stay there because I met a man and fell in love. But I couldn't make my life work there. I couldn't find work because I didn't speak Finnish as a native tongue. And a lot of the work that I was doing at the time, so hospitality or communications, sort of marketing stuff, you have to be a native or fluent in the language. So I really struggled, and I had low self-esteem. I didn't really, like myself. I wasn't really confident, and I just crumbled. I've really, really had a really hard time and a struggle. And I ended up making the decision that I needed to come home. So I broke up the relationship and I moved back home to Australia. So I found myself there at coming up to 30. I was 28, 29 years old, and I had no money, no job, no boyfriend, no career. And it's not where you want to be at 30, and most people have that kind of timeline. Like around 30, I'll be this, that, and the other, and I'll have kids, the house, or whatever it might be for you. And for me, I thought by 30, I would have figured out what it was that I was doing, my career path, and so on and so forth. And from there, I made a commitment to myself that I was going to, just to ground myself, that I was going to journal every day. And then after a few months of doing that, I was like, well, no one's seeing this. I'm doing all this writing, but no one's seeing it. It's not going anywhere. And then I decided I was going to write a poem every day. And then I started reading them to people. And then I found open mics, so like spoken word poetry.
Mm-hmm.
And I went to a couple of these and I was reading my poetry out, and I met someone who had become a really good friend, and her name was Sarah Truman. And we would hang out a lot and spend a lot of time together. And she was studying coaching. And she sat with me one day. We did a few sessions. And then one day I said, "Hey, Sarah, listen to this." And I read her this poem straight out of my journal. And she turned to me and went, "Katrina, that's your thing." And I said, "What do you mean?" And she said, "Journaling. Teach me how to journal." She said, "Do you know how many people who are just like me?" So she meant her.
Mm-hmm.
And everyone had always her whole life told her to journal. So her coaches, her mentors, books that you read, and she would buy all these beautiful journals, and then she'd write one page or half a page and then stop. And so that's where my coaching journey began. I started holding workshops teaching people how to journal because it was something that I was just doing. And then from there, I got sick of trying to find venues and locations to hold physical workshops. I thought, why don't I just bring it online? It means I don't have to drive around town. We don't have to pay money for hall hire and things like that. And when I brought it online, that was a whole new world then to learn. So I had to learn how to market, how to sell online. And that's when it turned into coaching. So rather than just giving people the tool of journaling, that's just one of the tools that I share. And obviously purpose is something that I struggle with so much. So that's something that I really have researched and helped over the years myself to figure out what it is, my purpose and what I'm doing with my life. So now I like to give that back to others as well. And I definitely think being self-confident and being having a healthy sense of self-worth go really hand in hand with purpose. And emotional intelligence is just all tied in with that. I think that for me, emotional intelligence is understanding your reactions and responses. So your thoughts, your emotions, your actions, and your energy. And I think that's all tied in with understanding your purpose and who you are.
I went through I've been that person who like, I wanted to be everything. Like I went through so many phases of my life that I wanted to be so many different things that I also went through a phase of, I don't even know what I'm doing. But it was like in my early 20s, like right after college stage. I went through like for 5 years, I floated around like, okay, what the hell am I doing with my life? What's going on?
Yeah.
I was just so lost. So I
And
totally get it.
Yeah. What helped you find like grounding them? What helped you find your way and your path?
Change of environment actually helped me. Cause I was like,
Mm-hmm.
during that phase, I was living with my parents still. I went like after college, I went back home. And it was like so depressive. So one day I just had this idea like, okay, let me just move. Randomly just move. And I just changed my environment. And it was like a whole new me came about.
Yeah. That's amazing.
So,
and
yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. Sorry, I've just got someone trying to call me on my phone. I do my Zoom calls on my phone. Yeah, I think that's really fascinating that you can change environment. Because for me, the change of environment was, I guess it was an instigation to like, so living overseas was an instigation to, I guess, really confronting and facing what was going on for me.
Mm-hmm.
But then coming back home, I mean, I didn't move back in with my parents, but coming back home was almost like, okay, this is where I need to be. And I definitely am a strong believer in the power of place. So for me, where I live right now, we were speaking about it before we started the podcast, is not where I grew up, but it was a place that I was really drawn to. So I don't know about where you moved to, but for me, when I was moving back to Australia, it was moving back specifically to this place because I'd never felt more myself than when I was here.
That works great with you because you probably like nature and stuff, like outside. Versus me, I'm a homebody. So like if I could be anywhere in the world, long as my house is correct, like how I would want it, I would be fine.
Yep. But still that power of place, right? So for you, it was like living with your parents, that house, that home couldn't be the way that you exactly wanted it to be because it wasn't your house.
Right.
Yeah, that's amazing. It's so interesting, isn't it? How we all have our own unique journey to go on as well.
Right.
Mm.
Who are your ideal clients and how do you help them feel confident and capable?
Yes. My ideal clients are people who just know that there's something more for them. They have this feeling inside that, that may, like, you're working a job that you fell into, or maybe you studied, now you're a nurse, you're a teacher and you're doing it, but you're not overly passionate about it, you're not thrilled about it. You just have this feeling inside. It's like this sensation of, I know there's more that I'm supposed to be doing. I know there's something else for me, but I don't know what it is and I don't know how to get it. And the way that we work together, so at the moment I have my called program, which is a group program. So that's actually, another round is launching on the 24th of January, or you can do it all year round with me one-on-one. And we go through a program which I really adore, and it's something that I would love to get into schools to help young people at that point when I was struggling, that I mentioned earlier, like being in high school and not knowing what subjects to choose. Because I think what they lack in schools and what they lack when they teach you about picking your career and where you're heading is, well, who am I? Who am I? What do I like? What am I good at? What are my skills? What are my gifts? What are my talents? And I never did any of this work when I was trying to pick my career and my future. So that's what we do in the call program. We really look into self-discovery. So we do a deep dive into, who are you? What makes you tick? What do you love? Then we move into service discovery. So this has 2 tiers. The first tier is, how do I like to serve? How do I like to help and show up in the world? And also, what's no longer serving me? And I think that's probably the most powerful part of this program, is we look at, what are the beliefs that I developed in childhood around work, myself, my abilities, and money, because they're all sort of entwined. And if you don't believe that you're worthy of making money doing what you love, you'll never be able to make it happen. If you don't believe that you are good enough to do work that you love, you won't be able to find it. So there's heaps of stuff that gets entangled with the beliefs that our parents gave us that we've taken on for ourselves. And then we look into clarity. So we look at all that work and we get really clear on it. And then we look at create. Well, what can I create now to move myself forward? So that's one program that I work with people on to help them find purpose. If you're specifically wanting to work on building your self-worth and your self-confidence, I have other sessions. So they're grouped in packs of 3 for those. And we work one-on-one on getting clear on, what is it that's going to make me feel more confident, more empowered within myself.
It's funny you talk about the school aspect, because I always have like these regrets from school. Like, I feel like they didn't teach us anything. Like, I went through all these years to not learn life skills.
Yes,
I
exactly.
need life skills.
Yes. And I think emotional intelligence is a huge one, like that my emotions mean something and I need to learn how to process them so that I don't lash out and get angry at someone, or I don't hold my anger in and therefore not take action. And, the importance of learning, so away from emotional intelligence now, the importance of learning a trade or a skill and getting really good at it. Eventually you can start a business from that if you want, how to manage your money, how to make money, how to save money, there's so much we didn't learn at school.
I want you to elaborate more on that, because I don't even know exactly what that is.
What do you mean?
Like emotional intelligence.
Emotional intelligence. Yep. So for me, it means understanding what your thoughts are, what your feelings are, what your actions are, and your reactions and your responses and your energy. It's like taking responsibility for what's going on in here. And for those of you listening, you can't see that I'm drawing circles around my face. Because I believe the only thing that we have control over is ourselves, right? Like what we're thinking, what we're feeling, and the actions and reactions that we have. And if you can sit with yourself and observe yourself, and you get to choose then how you want to think and how you want to feel and how you want to act, or how you want to act and respond. And we don't get taught that. And then if you want to take it down to the next level, well, I believe that every emotion shows up for you for a reason, and it needs to be felt. It has something to say, it has a message. And once you understand what that is, then it will dissipate and go away. Well, what we often try to do, because especially in our Western society, we're more focused on productivity and getting things done. So we are constantly having to do things and be busy and be at work, and our emotions don't factor into it. So we're trying to suppress our emotions and suppress what we really think and feel just to get on with it. And that causes problems. It causes illness and disease in the body. It causes mental and emotional suffering. And if we were taught tools how to listen into and feel and understand what's going on inside of us, we would actually show up for ourselves in a more confident, self-assured way. And we would have better relationships as a result. We would have more aligned work as well, because we'd really understand what's going on inside of us.
What's something about emotional intelligence that's true to you that nobody in your industry agree with you on?
Ooh, that's a tough one. Oh, because most of it people agree with. I guess maybe that, like, I think if you stick to people who, so I call myself the rebel researcher of emotional intelligence. I've done all my own research. And I guess the stereotypical view of it is that emotional intelligence is just your emotions, whereas I incorporate your thoughts and your actions and your energy as well. So that I look at emotional intelligence as being everything that's within your locus of control, which is things that you actually have control over and power over, which is only yourself. So that's probably contrary to if you really went to the people who are studying at universities. They're more sticking to just the emotions and how to manage those, and how that managing the emotions and dealing with them can help you succeed in life.
That's awesome, actually. It sounds really awesome.
Yes. Yeah.
So, okay, from a child's perspective, what does having self-worth and confidence actually mean?
Oh. See, it's interesting because kids just naturally have it, don't they?
Exactly why I say it from a child's perspective, because
Kids
it's like we lose it. We have it and then we lose it.
Yeah. Yeah. So from like, yeah, if I'm speaking to a child, is that more what you mean? Like, how would I explain it to a child?
Yes. How would you explain it to a child? Because I feel like if you explain things to a childlike way, people can get it better.
Having confidence and a healthy sense of self-worth means that you feel safe to really be who you are, and you don't filter what you want to say or how you want to act or what you want to do because you're worried about what other people will think, or you're worried about being laughed at maybe, or that you might get teased in front of everyone. It means really being able to be you 100% and not second guess it and not filter it. So not change who you are. You just get to show up in the world and say, hey, I'm Katrina and this is me, this is who I am, this is what I love, and this is all of me, and love it or leave it.
Since we both work with entrepreneurs, are there any specific barriers that entrepreneurs should look out for?
Definitely. So what I find, so I often work with creative people. And so when it comes to creative, I mean, entrepreneurship in itself is creative, isn't it, really? But I think what some of the barriers that come up, the first ones when you're first starting out, it brings up a lot of the stuff about self-worth. So like, am I good enough to do this? Can I do it? Or if something flops, like if you don't make the sales you wanted to make, or if you don't sign the amount of clients you wanted to make, there's this sense of, well, I'm not good enough, maybe I shouldn't be doing this. And I had one of my very first coaches in the field when I started doing this work, and the business coaching, I guess she was doing. She would always say, new levels, new devils. So every time that you reach a new level, there'll be a new voice in your head or a new story that'll show up that you need to clear and work through. The next, maybe I'm not good enough because of this, or maybe I can't do it because of this. And so I definitely think the first barriers that come up are around yourself and your ability.
That's true, because I deal with that a lot. Actually.
Yeah, and we all have, we all have like, and as you jump higher and higher, there's just new stories that come up, and you have to know that that's going to keep happening. And your job as an entrepreneur, as a creative person doing your work in the world, is to step through it. So don't let the fear get the better of you. Keep moving forward.
I believe in like consistency versus hardcore aggressive tactics when forming new habits, like for change. So, how would you advise someone to start rebuilding their self-confidence and esteem if they've lost it?
Mm-hmm. If you've lost your self-esteem and confidence, my big thing is make promises to yourself and keep them. I think that one of the biggest things that erodes our sense of confidence and self-worth is when we make a promise to ourselves and we don't follow through. And I don't mean a big New Year's resolution, I'm going to lose 60 kilos or whatever it might be this year. I mean something like small, like maybe it might be, well, I'm going to read a book for 10 minutes every day, and do your best to do every day. Or it might be, I'm going to go to the gym once a week and actually follow through. So whatever promise you make to yourself, make it small and make it, I like to do as much as possible a daily habit. So something that's so small that you can do it every day, and follow through. Keep the promise to yourself and follow through. And if you can do that with one small thing and then add on another and another and another, you will watch your self-confidence and your self-worth increase. Because our self-worth is our story about ourselves, right? So if you've been, generally what I know with my own story and what I found with clients is when your self-worth and self-esteem, when your confidence is eroded, we've done it to ourselves. So we've made promises to ourselves and broken them because we've given ourselves away to other people, and we've said yes to them rather than saying yes to ourselves. So this is one small way that's really tangible that you can start saying yes to yourself, yes to me.
You started talking about marketing earlier. Since you're obviously an online coach, how do you get your new clients? How do you market to get new clients?
Yep. So I do a lot of social media marketing. So I do a lot of live streams, a lot of posts, and I get most of my clients come to me through that way quite organically. I also do a little bit of paid advertising in the lead up to my programs, and then I'll add those people to my list. And sometimes I go through calling phases as well. So I'll give people a call. Not my favorite, it's more of an aggressive style of marketing. But sometimes I'll do that to reach out, and sometimes I text them as well just to make sure that they've received my free opt-in. So generally I always have a free opt-in and then offer a call, and then from a call becomes a client. So it's generally the way that I work.
It sounds easy, but you know how things that sound easy, it won't be easy.
No, it's not easy at all. It's a lot of work, and sometimes for not a lot of reward. But I guess that the biggest focus there is for me, part of it is creating a body of work. So I look at my website as a body of work. I look at my books as a body of work. I collect all the clients, have a list of them that I have worked with or that I've had calls with, so I can see that I've had impact with people and I've connected with people. And also to keep in mind when you're social media marketing and when you're creating, like if you're a podcast creator, so like you can look at the amount of listens that your podcast has had, but you don't know the impact that it's had on their life. And not everyone will write a review, not everyone will tell you. So it's keeping that in mind as well. Even if you haven't hit your sales goals, even if you haven't signed the amount of clients that you want, you haven't made the amount of money that you want, it's okay. And to make other markers for your success, I think that's really important as well. So like I said earlier, my website is a body of work for me. So maybe if I write one podcast a week, that's 52, one blog post a week, that's 52 posts, and that in itself is a success for me. So it's defining your success differently as well.
Let me come back around before we go. Purpose.
Yeah.
What are some actions and activities somebody can do to make themselves feel more purposeful?
Yes, good question. I love this. The first and foremost, I would love for you to spend some time getting to know who you are. And you can do that in heaps of ways. One really fun, easy way that a lot of people really engage with and like is go to Google and search personality tests. And there's a website, I think it's called like 16 personalities or something. They have a bunch of free tests on there, and you put in like your date of birth and who you are, and it gives you some feedback on yourself. So that's one way that you can do and read about yourself. And I know when people read this stuff, they laugh and they smile because they relate to it. They're like, yeah, this is me. Another great way is to sit with your journal. This can be a little bit harder, but committing to journaling a little bit every day really allows you to understand what's going on in your mind more and understand who you are.
I'm one of those people who can't journal. I can read. Like I will read 1,000 books in a year. Like I'm one of those people who can like sit down, like, you know how they do like the Goodreads online where they calculate the books. I'm one of the top people. But I cannot journal for nothing in the world.
Yeah, no, that's okay. That's and heaps of people, and it's not their thing, and that's totally okay. So if that's not your thing, what are other ways that you can get to know yourself? So one of my other activities is spending more time alone by yourself and making so this is pilfered from the author of The Artist's Way, whose name I've just forgotten, but she wrote a book called The Artist's Way. And one of her tasks that she gives you there is to take yourself on a date. It's called a self date once a week. Mm-hmm. It can be 10 minutes, it can be an hour. And it's just you being you and following your heart of like, what is it that I want to do? So a lot of people, when you're struggling with feeling purposeful, you spend a lot of time trying to please other people, trying to make sure everyone else around you is happy, that you're not even really sure what makes you happy. So if you can spend that little bit of time, just, okay, well, I'm going to go and take myself out for coffee, or I'm just going to go for a walk without a purpose and just see where it leads me. And this little bit of time carved out for yourself helps you get to know yourself and spend time with yourself and feel comfortable with yourself. And that is part of a journey, but it helps you to feel more purposeful.
But what about those people who feel confident with themselves, and like they can be alone, but still have issues?
With their purpose and what makes me, So then we need to deep dive into, well, what makes me feel fulfilled? Mm-hmm. What makes me feel, what is meaningful work for me? What is that? So these are questions to really sit with and reflect on. What does that feel like for me? Like, what does actually purposeful? What does that feel like for me? Being on purpose, what does that feel like? What does it look like? Get really clear on that.
Okay.
What kind of work am I doing? Who am I working with? How am I helping? What am I doing? So sort of starting to sit with it and get clear on these answers to like, well, what does purposeful work mean to me? What does it look like? What would it feel like if I did have it? What would I be doing? Who would I be with? How would I be spending my time? And some of these things, rather than just saying, I don't know, I want you to sit with it a little bit longer and open up to the possibility, open up to, well, what might it look like if I did know? What might it feel like if I did know?
Girl, you over here preaching. Everybody go follow Katrina. She knows what she's talking about.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for coming and chatting with us today.
Thank you for tuning in. Stop playing at life. Let's go. Hey,
you just listened to Melissa with Stop Playing at Life, because you know damn well you need to go out there and have a life.
Right now's the time. Let's go. Hey.